Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Ted Santos here to give you your dose of perspective on life and dating and business and politics. And we're always doing it from a man's perspective. So I'm going to have a very special guest. Many of you already know him. You've seen me do a show with him. And we're going to chop it up and talk some shop. We're going to talk about as you see the title, men are walking away. Why are so many men walking away? We're going to get into this and what's really going on out here. And gentlemen, what can we do about this that's having us walk away? So is walking away the only solution? I'm not going to take this conversation or this journey alone. I'm going to have this brilliant young man who has some really good ideas about what's happening in our country, in our nation. He has a very healthy perspective. He's actually on this side of the river. You know, New Yorkers say New Jersey's a country on the other side of the river. So he's in this country with me in New Jersey. Last time you saw me, I was live at his spot. And this time we're going to do it from our own locations, but he's going to be on the screen with me. I dropped the link. All you have to do is click in here. And we're going to take on a big topic. We're going to take on something big here. As you guys come in, like the video, share it. So drop the likes, give it a thumbs up so Google can find us, and we'll have Google catch us in their algorithm so other people can join us. This is an important topic to take on. What's going on, Skip? Jersey in the house, absolutely. Definitely, this is going to be a Jersey thing, you could say. Oh, man, I didn't do something here. Give me 1 second, guys. So I'm going to, I forgot all about Instagram. I'm going to knock out a little bit of Instagram live here while I wait for you all to come in. Cash the link. I dropped the link. Do I have to do it? Try it again. The link is in the chat, Cash. There you go. I see. Just drop a little bit of Instagram so you guys catch me on Instagram live, and I am going to be joined. I have this laptop that I guess I'm still adjusting to this touchpad here. Absolutely, Legatus. This is going to be a good one. Not going to be doing this show by myself. So many of you guys, Red Pill Mike said thanks for joining. Sydney Orstino Koch. Sydney, thanks for joining, man. So you guys have heard MGTOW, red pill, even black pill. You have all kinds of, men's right movements, and men are taking a stand. And as a society, I would say we've gone, the pendulum has swung too far. And, people talk about work-life balance, and, what we have is an imbalance in our society, and it's not making sense. Men are being slaughtered in the Austin. Okay. Austin coach. Got it. Sydney Austin coach. Got it. Boy, I was slow. Thanks, Sydney. I see you in my group on Facebook. Absolutely. So some guys are getting slaughtered out here. Family courts, alimony, child support, even in our relationships, not just in divorce, just in everyday relationships. About over 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And women are claiming that men are leaving them high and dry. And it's women who are driving this divorce rate. So are men these awful creatures? So now that we have a gay marriage, and women can marry one another and men can marry other men, what we're seeing is there's a divorce rate even in that gay community. So men have a divorce rate. When two men marry, their divorce rate is 20%. When two women marry, it's 45%. So that's an indication that it's not men that are screwing up relationships. Women don't even get along with one another. So men are taking it upon themselves to say, hey, you all have crossed the line and we're just walking away. And I think women don't fully comprehend why so many have walked away. So we're going to get into why so many men are walking away and continue to walk away. Even teenagers are taking that stand because they're seeing the same thing, whether they watch their dad go through an ugly divorce or their brother go through an ugly breakup. We've gotten so far out of balance as a society that there's no way we can continue functioning this way. So men are taking a stand. And let me get this thank you for the super chat, Ted, and my boy Cash. This is Hall of Fame. That is right. That is who I'm about to bring on. You guys have seen me do a show with him. I did it live. It was myself, Cash, the Red Pill, and we also had a gentleman by the name of London. So the Red Pill Rican we had in the house. And so we talked about a lot of things from a man's perspective, from working out to politics to business. And then, of course, we had to address the ladies and giving up a little game on that show. So Cash and I are going to take game from a very different perspective. And like this video as you come in, share it. I dropped my Cash App link in there. I just received a PayPal from Sylvester Carrington. Thanks for the PayPal, Sylvester. Big thank you to that. I love your support, and I see you in my Facebook group also. So thanks a lot for that. So I know you guys don't want to just hear me talk, so let's bring it on. Let's make something happen. Do some magic. What's up, Cash? What's up?
Chilling here. It's funny you was just talking about working out. You see, when I called you, I was in the middle. You see my resistance stick?
Right.
I was in the middle of doing that. So right now, all this right here and right here is just on fire. Holy sugar honey iced tea.
Oh, wait a second. Someone called me out. I'm not gonna hide it. West Coast Reg, thanks for the super chat. He said, Teddy, return my calls, boss. Yes, I owe you a call, man. Listen, my computer, my desktop crashed, man, and we have a ton of snow up here in Jersey, and I had appointments to go into Apple to get it repaired, or at least see if they can turn it on so I can transfer the data to another computer. And the snow days caused me to lose 2 appointments. I finally got in there today, and they can't turn it on. So I've got a little bit of computer drama going on in my life. And but lucky I had this laptop, and I only use it for live streaming. So I'm in good shape. But for other things, I need my computer back, and I'll have one coming in. So
Yep. It's always good to have a backup, especially when it's designated for something.
right,
As you've seen,
exactly.
I have 3 laptops myself, and one of them in particular is strictly designated for the network.
Exactly.
Nothing
Right.
goes into that laptop. No games, no movies, no like outside shows, nothing.
Right,
Completely
right.
blank.
Yep. Someone yeah, exactly. North Jersey was hit hard by the snow. Man, we have tell them, Cash, we have mountains of snow all over the place, man.
Oh man, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philadelphia, New Hampshire, the whole tri-state Hudson River, Hudson Valley area. Um, we got destroyed pretty much. Winter definitely came back with a vengeance against us. It's unfortunate because I'm of Caribbean descent and Ted here is of Brazilian descent. So our lineage is very demanding of the sun. So
Right.
it's really not the best environment for us right now. We have mountains, how Ted said earlier. We could seriously sell this snow to Alaska, or when they constantly complain about the polar ice caps melting, hey, we have snow here. Get some Black Hawks to scoop up the snow and take it up to
Dump
Antarctica.
it
I'm pretty
off.
sure 24 hours, boom, boom, there you go. Keep it
No
nice and
question.
brick. But yeah, we got slaughtered, so it's terrible out here. I was outside earlier shoveling and took a little drive, and yeah, it's very shitty. It's not good one bit.
Hey, someone in Jersey said South Jersey was light. They even got rain instead of snow. I didn't know that.
Because when you look at the map, let's say Pennsylvania. Well, actually, Pennsylvania is here, right? And it
Right,
connects to upstate New York. We're right here,
right,
New York City, New Jersey. So
right,
Southern
right,
Jersey is down here. The
right.
snowstorm focused up here in this area, and just
Oh man, so we were
boom.
wow,
Hmm.
wow. So we're talking about, how men got this way, or society has. Someone said it took generations to get to this point. It won't just vanish in our lifetime.
Absolutely
Maybe,
not.
maybe. So
Well,
maybe
maybe yeah,
there's
you're
some
right.
work
You're right.
for
You're
us to
right.
do
Maybe.
as men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe there's some work. But he also said it's low 80s here in California, Colombia. It's at night, so he's just letting us know we're in cold weather, and he's in 80 degrees even at nighttime. So thanks for letting us know, Sydney.
Mhm.
So what are we talking about today, man?
Well, all right. As you saw in my recent post, I took up a clip from Coach Greg Adams' show earlier. Shout out to CGA, where he shared with us that women do outnumber men on a heavy demographic when it comes to voter turnout. Now, what dictates the direction of the nation is current legislation. How do we get current legislation is simply by voting. When women outnumber men in voting, the direction that they chose to vote in will determine the legislation that is activated and shifts this nation's direction. As we see right now, we have a lot of infringements to deal with, mass incarceration, a family court system that is completely biased and rigged against the male gender. How did we get here? Unfortunately. And this is not hatred towards women, because there are a lot of good women, and there are even women who do vote against men, but deep inside, they're not bad women. They are just misinformed.
Right. Right.
And the mainstream media has capitalized the manipulation of their emotional state of mind in order to have them shifting and voting in a certain direction, along with providing incentives to retain their votes, such as Section 8 welfare, wage checks, a lot of I don't know the correct titles, but laws that hold companies to a certain standard of hiring women, which I wouldn't say it's bad, but whomsoever is going to be hired should be the proper candidate for the job, regardless of gender. When you take people based on gender, as we're
Right.
seeing now in the current situation that we're dealing with, if it's mostly women and the majority of women do carry a certain amount of hostility towards men, including the tradcons, and even unfortunately some of my fellow libertarian women, we get an outcome as which we are seeing right now: rigged family court against men, heavy infringements on our freedom of speech, freedom of media networking, self-defense rights, privacy rights, and a function of a judicial system that will contribute to the outcomes of men either being free and allowed to work and be productive members of society, or men being incarcerated and not being productive members of society, rather than statistics who conduct slave like labor within the prison industrial complex, via the avenue of women voting in a certain direction that creates the legislation for us to be imprisoned. Right now, we have a massive amounts of false allegations, paternity test frauds,
Right.
and an overall somewhat abuse of public assistance programs dominated by a quantity of women. And where does that leave us men? In a terrible place that we are living in today.
Hey, there's something you didn't mention that is the image wise, right, is really inaccurate. So men have been labeled as these dangerous beasts who just beat on and abuse women. The
Yep,
Harvard Medical School found that 70% of domestic violence is initiated by women, and
that's correct.
you don't hear that in the media. You just
Hmm.
hear that men are so horrible, and in some cities, 40% of the domestic violence calls to the police are women abusing men. So, we don't hear that stuff.
Hmm. That's horrible, and you're absolutely right about that. I looked into that myself. It's so many statistics, as you said. I missed that one piece because being that it's so many statistics is similar to an all-you-can-eat buffet at this point.
Right,
We
right,
have a lot of evidence, so we could cover myself, for example, 7 or 8 issues out of 10, and that's where the teamwork amongst the manosphere must come in, because whatever I miss, somebody else could bring up for me.
right.
And you said there are lots of domestic violence disputes that are either initiated or instigated by the female gender, unfortunately. And along with that, the majority of women do initiate the calls towards 911, when a huge portion of that comes from their instigation of
Correct.
what creates a domestic violence situation. Adding to that, we got to remember a huge chunk of men do not report domestic violence disputes.
Right.
I
Right.
myself have been in 2 relationships where the women were overly jealous and extremely aggressive and resorted to hitting me, and I never once called the police on them to create a report. I have had 2 coworkers in the current company that I work for come to work with physical damage on their bodies who refuse to conduct the action of reporting the domestic violence situations. My oldest brother, several times with his first wife, had been a victim of domestic violence. Coming home from work, she would be ready for him, ready to attack for reasons of, unfortunately, her emotional instability due to her upbringing and creating fabricated scenarios in her head. And once her emotions got the best of her, when my brother would walk through that door, he was walking right into an assault, which he did not report. And those examples right there are some of the few of many nationally that are rarely reported. So if all men were to 100% report each and every single domestic violence dispute, I guarantee you fellas watching this evening that the numbers would dwarf the complete opposite of men inciting violence towards women. And again, I want the women to realize we do not hate them. We do not hold any animosity towards them. All we are doing is researching the facts and providing it to them because we want to outreach to the good women to begin taking action and to the bad women to provide them a path of enlightenment and redemption as well. We as men hold our fellow men accountable even to the extremes of hostile violence that could possibly lead to execution. Women, on the other hand, do not hold themselves to that caliber of accountability.
Right, right, right. In fact, women believe it's okay for them to hit men because
Mhm.
men are bigger, and it shouldn't be. It's like they should have the right. I had this clip from I think it was the show The View. I don't remember the show, but Whoopi Goldberg was and a bunch of other women, and Whoopi Goldberg said, "Hey, keep your hands to yourself. No woman should have a right to hit a man, and if she does, a man has a right to defend himself." And I don't know
Wow.
if it was like 7 or 8 other women. They all screamed, and they were all different nationalities: black, white, Asian, and Latina. And they all said, "I see you, Reg." They all screamed and said, "No, a woman should have the right to hit a man because a man is bigger and he can take it." And Whoopi was like, "No, don't hit a man. If he hits you back, he has the right. He's defending himself." And they were like, "Oh no, he shouldn't have to defend himself. It's just a woman. We can hit you." And it was interesting, the back and forth. And I'm pointing that out because that's really more of a cultural, that culturally it seems to be acceptable that women can do whatever they want to a man. It's almost like men are in some ways seen as subhuman.
Yep. Unfortunately, due to the current state we are living in, with the atmosphere being hostility towards men by default through entertainment and mainstream media, the majority, not all, but the majority of women, and as we've seen through the charts, hold this type of attitude towards men. I am a nasty woman. So we're dealing with a demograph of women completely in there and ready to conduct acts of hostility at a moment's notice. I work in public service, and the biggest disputes that I face are from women who come to my establishment of employment, all in there with little to no reason, a lot of anger, and absolutely no type of comprehension to what they need to hear. And it is not gender based, but simply because the product that the company that I work for provides to them, things have to be explained amongst their purchases and their service. Now, if they come in with such horrible attitudes, how can we properly attend to them and have clear, transparent conversation to further elaborate and find solutions to each and every single woman's situation if they are entering the establishment with a state of mind of emotional frustration and angry hostility.
Right. Hey, Nelly Nell, thanks for joining. Good to see you in the house. So, what I'm getting is, so this topic is why are men walking away? So, one of the things is, which is perhaps the worst, is domestic violence being initiated by women. So, and you're Latino, and Latinas seem to want to uphold the reputation of the most jealous women in the world, and they kind of stand by that. And whatever actions come from their jealousy, it's like, well, I'm Latina. That's the way I'm supposed to be. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, they don't seek improvement in behavior, and at the same time, women always call out jealous men. So it's very hypocritical, very biased, and we see the action that they are executing. They are seeking a beneficial advantage with zero accountability. It applies to thee, but not to me.
Well said. Well said. Um, so now you mentioned about women having 10 million more voters.
And that's based on the current statistics we have right now. It could be a lot more, but just off of basic research,
So
10 million.
let's take this from, let's look at this from another perspective.
Mhm.
So men walk away from women, right? So let's say they walk away in droves and millions. Yet, if from what you said, women have an advantage in voting and affecting certain legislation, couldn't men walking away just create resentment and have them do things uh, that work against men?
It could, but it could also teach a lesson to them. Again, ladies, this is with zero hatred towards you, zero emotional attachment. That is why I am speaking in a very monotoned manner. It is simply a response due to the current situation we are facing. Who is going to participate in a rigged game, whether it be a sports, gambling, or board game?
Well, so what I'm just I'm putting another perspective out there. So would men be better off walking away, or would they be better off sitting, telling women to sit down and we're going to sit at the table and talk? And
The
hey,
approach, I'm sorry.
these are the things that are not working, and we, as men and women, we can no longer go forward. We can no longer go forward in the direction that we're going. This is a crash and burn direction, and no one's going to win, even though it seems like you're winning. In the
Mhm.
end, we all lose.
So the approach I'm currently taking to it is I'm trying to interview as many like-minded women as possible who do have a sense of enlightenment when it comes to current legislation and statistics, along with constitutional education that they know will determine the direction of this nation. The women who are in favor of the constitutional republic, I try to align myself with because this is no longer a battle that men can fight. We must find the women who are on our side and empower them with the statistics like that they can take the positions of ambassadors to educate their fellow women. I believe that as we continue to walk away, but try to find like minded women who are accepting and informed of what's currently going on with zero bias and full blown statistical analysis, we can win. Regardless, us men should be walking away. Anytime we have interactions with women, we are put in instant danger. We are in a Me Too culture. False allegations are through the roof. Fraternity fraud is through the roof. So if we continue to engage blindly, it is no different than walking blindfolded on a landmine field. We have to put the ball in women's courts. That does not mean we hate women for the women who are watching this evening or will be watching later on. It simply means until there is a fix in the judicial legislative system, we are going to allow you women to take the action to fix the situation. Women asked for emancipation, equality, and for their voices to be heard. If their voices are going to execute the actions leading us towards tyranny, then we're going to see their true colors as being extremely biased towards men, heavily gynocentric, and in favor of Marxism. If we see women begin to become informed and enlightened, then their actions will speak that they are for actual equality, for the restoration of the constitutional republic, which is the foundation of this nation, and for a level playing field with absolutely zero bias, but rather a merits based system.
So, so there's another side to that also.
Uh huh.
So one of I'd say the major reason uh, women became angry or enraged with men is basically they were told to do it, right? So
Yep.
you said that you're not upset with women because that's what they were trained to do. They were told to do. It's part of the education, hell, even in elementary school, they're doing it.
Yep.
It's in the movies. It's in the TV programs. And some of the things that they were taught is that men are these brutal beasts that beat on women. They're dangerous. They talk about rape culture in college, how most women are raped in college. Um, they say things like, "Oh, he's going to force you to change your last name. He's going to keep you in the bedroom, in the kitchen. He's going to control what you do. He's going to change you. He's going to make you into a different woman, uh, and you're going to have to be meek and quite like all these things that women have been told. And it's almost like now women are looking at us like Dracula who's coming
Yep.
to suck the blood, and that's only because that's all they've heard since the day they were born, and and the ugly thing to oh, and I forgot to say, as men, we only want one thing from them: sex. That's all men want. That's all we want as a human being. That's all men are good for, or all we want. So there are fathers who even push this on their daughters. So we rarely talk about that.
Beta simp fathers.
Right. There are a lot of fathers who say, "Oh, boys and men only want one thing." Now, he's a guy. He should know better. He should know that as a man, he wants more than one thing. Well, I guess one problem is if you keep telling boys and teenagers and men that that's all you want from a woman is sex, even some guys will start to believe it and buy into it and think that's what manhood is. That's what it means to be a man. So you create this artificial conflict between men and women because when you really look at it, women still do look to men for guidance, for emotional stability. They still look for men to pay for dates. That like the we still live in a traditional social structure, but we're pretending that there's this modern thing, and there's nothing modern about our society.
That does not make sense.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. You're absolutely right. Many articles, those who do not believe me can conduct searches for themselves. Within the past decade, as false allegations have continued to rise, which also do a devastating amount of damage to the real women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted or
Right, right.
discriminated against. A statistic that has risen is the refusal of men to be alone with women. Now, being that women are constantly seeking mentorship from men, and men are refusing to engage in the mentorship unless there is another female presence, they have gone out and created a bunch of complaints about this. They're not accepting of having another woman around, so we have to ask, if you do not want a fellow female there as a witness amongst the mentorship session, what is your true agenda here?
Right, right.
Along with that, as you stated, with the fathers who indoctrinate their daughters to believe that all men are scumbags, simply seeking sexual satisfaction from women, they themselves do a massive disservice to their own family and the nation. Right now, on average, we have adults, unfortunately, majority being female, who are dependent of their parents well into their 20s, early 30s.
Exactly.
That's the cutoff point. Along with that, these women will either roommates together, and if one woman faces a financial issue, she causes harm to the fellow females she is living with, which in turn leads to women contributing to the majority of evictions within the United States during a time period where all public assistance programs are in their favor.
Mm.
When fathers and mothers as well, because there are a good amount, raise their daughters to believe that men are the enemy, the devastating long term effects are not only damaging to the family, but also to society. Women hold 70% of student loan debt, along with many other categories of debt, such as credit card debt, medical debt, and debt when it comes to loans, whether it be personal or business loans. What does that do? That in turn hurts the economy. Um, when women are taught hate rather than self determination, self empowerment without the presence of hostility, it hurts the planet economically, along with um, family wise.
Right.
If
Exactly.
families are not growing, what happens is population declines. As population declines, we don't have enough productivity to keep the economy going. It is a domino effect, and we have seen the domino effects um, outcome today. The economy can drop at any second. We have a massive debts within this nation, and the majority of our prisons are majority men incarcerated, with women who seek mentorship from men. Along with that, women biologically decline in muscle mass 20 to 30 years earlier than men. All it's going to lead to is a devastating outcome. When you don't have enough support of men, there's going to be less men who keep modern day functions going, such as the running water system, the electrical grid, the internet, and traffic. Is a massive domino effect whose core issue is the indoctrinated message of blanketed hates rather than self accountability, and a vetting process based on case by case situations.
Think about what you just said. So just look at debt as one thing. 77% of consumer purchases is from women.
Yep.
That's a lot. Like
Yes, it
that's
is.
way too much. Because if you look at society, it's about 52% women and 48% men. Yet
That margin grows daily.
it's 77% of consumer purchases. That's a lot.
Yep.
So that's a problem. Women are taking on debt, and in a lot of cases, they're looking for a husband to pay down their debt. They're not even looking for a spouse, to share their life. They're looking for an ATM machine. But
Facts.
there's something else in what you're saying about society on the big picture. When you think of capital, right? So how do you build people? When you say men built society, a lot of women just think of the guy who's the brick mason and the electrician and the plumber. Um, but to build a society, you have to have financial institutions. You have to have investors, which means you need banking. You need financial structures to be able to pay for these things. You need accounting to know if it's so that you know whether it's profitable or not, because you can burn through. Just because you're building something doesn't mean it's profitable. You can be burning through money and the whole thing crashes and burns because you're not managing the money. But those are structures that support it. And then you have your laborers, and you have mining and electricians and plumbers. But you need an education system so people can actually be competent in all of those things. And you need social structures. You need health care. All of this has to happen. And all of that has been created by men. All of
Yep.
it. 100%. Not 99.9, 100% of society, our civilizations around the world have been built by men.
Yep.
And that takes capital. You need money to do that. So before the pandemic, 51% of the workforce was filled with women.
Yep.
Now imagine where that number could go without a pandemic. At some point, you're at 60%. And
Yep.
where do we stop? 75, 90%? So if 90% of the workforce is filled with women, what do you do with the men? That becomes a national security threat, right? So
Yep.
your guys can't work because, as you were saying, and someone put affirmative action, you choose women over men. You don't choose the best candidate. You just want you put a woman in there and she only hires women. So
Yep.
what do we do? Build homeless shelters for men? Like, what do we do with the men? You now weaken the nation. You're going to have criminals, alcoholics, drug addicts, more suicide, and what women are not understanding is when you go out and you earn capital, you earn money. What men do with that is they invest it. They build houses, roads, buildings, bridges. Men invest it. They invested in other companies. They invested in other men. They invested in their children and their education. They invested in their spouse. They make sure they have the house and the food and the transportation, all the things, clothing, to make sure. Women don't want that responsibility. And that's a big problem, because if you have 51%, 60%, 75% of the workforce women, they're using consumer purchases as a way to spend, to invest their capital. How do you have a growing society with
You
that?
don't.
Right. That's so, and they won't marry unemployed men. So if you displace men in the workforce, so you won't have whole families. You'll have half of a family, which means someone else is raising your children and you don't know who's raising them. And
70 to 80% of single mother households produce either criminal
exactly,
activity
exactly,
minded
exactly. Yeah.
offspring and or 60 to 70% suicidal active offspring.
Right. Drug addicts, incarceration, dropouts, suicide, or aggressive behavior. So all of this, and I don't know if most people know this. The United States is the first country in the world where more men and boys are raped and molested than girls and women.
Yep.
First
And
country in the
I
world.
am glad that you said it because when I try to provide facts to our beautiful, well cherished women, they get highly upset. So there are many times that I have to refrain from providing these stats because there is a developing level of hostility towards me.
So I don't. So what does this say about women? Uh, you know,
What it
so
says
here's
about women,
no. Here's the unfortunate part. um, this is where men have to step in. So when you see your children acting up, you step in and you provide guidance and you correct it.
mhm,
Uh, the way a woman's brain works, women worry way more than men. They've done all kinds of neuroimaging with tens of thousands of people, and you put a man and woman side by side, the same place, same time, and you present a situation, and what happens? Women worry about things, and a man is just focused on the event, and women have all this activity. So, what does that mean? It's easier to influence her because
yep,
she's going to have more triggers. So you can use marketing or commercials. You can use the media. You can use propaganda, and you can even feed false information. And if you look at just television, most of your commercials are targeting women, and it works. It influences them. 77% of consumer purchases. So women are being influenced, and I saw someone in there in the chat that said if women didn't already have contempt towards men, no one could influence them. I maybe, but I just think that it's so much easier to influence women than it is to influence men. That all you need is a tiny fraction doing the influencing, and you can spoil the whole bunch. Like one bad apple can rot
yep,
the whole bunch. And so, uh, you look at what other countries are doing to stop feminism from eroding their culture. So you look at Asia, you look at the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and the things that men have done to, take a stand and say these are the boundaries. We haven't done that in the U.S. Men haven't taken some united front and said, here are the boundaries, and you don't operate outside of that, and we'll close doors. Um, and there's a crude way to put this, right? And I know women would hate to hear any man say this, except here's the deal. Uh, Most of the companies that are out here building the nation and the world are companies that were created by men. So we
yep,
created laws that allowed women to come in, and basically we've given women training. We've given them the education. They're in engineering. They're in psychology. They're in finance. They have the knowledge and the skills and the experience. What and so they've demanded to work in companies that were built by men.
yep,
And so men, they complied and they allowed it to happen. So you could say we've spent a few decades of training women on how to work in business, how to build infrastructures, how to build education systems. I think it would be a good idea if we took the training wheels off and said, ladies, this is a free market economy. You were allowed for free to go into a man's education system, their financial institutions, their corporations, even the military. You now can go build your own. And if you make a better mousetrap, we will say, hey, you made the better product. You can build the bridges, the skyscrapers, compete on a global market, create companies that only employ women, and then compete. Drill your own oil, mine your own iron ore and your copper and your salt and platinum and gold and all of those things.
Mhm.
Uh, and build companies. If you want to say that women are better or smarter or more creative or better than men, that would be the way to do it.
Mhm.
Build companies that only have women, compete in the global marketplace, and show that you actually are better than men. And if that's the case, may the best person win.
Unfortunately, what we have seen is a massive amounts of hypocrisy. Women refuse to support women businesses such as women only gyms and or women only recreational centers. Um, Along with that, when we see what women do with their votes, when we have the majority of women voting in Marxist and anti-constitutional, pro-statue, pro-socialist candidates, we get nothing but a lazy nation. Women refuse to apply for jobs that are life threatening, such
Right,
as sewage and power
right,
plant workers, fishing out in the sea, environmentalists who have to go deep into the jungles in order to find any type of herbs and or natural resources that can help planet Earth if utilized properly. Women do not want to work as ship and or yacht captains at the quantity that men do, nor do they want to be pilots for airplanes at the quantity that men do. So when all of these dangerous fields that do contribute to the circulation of the economy are not having women in quantity filling in those seats, we see via their actions and can validly stamp that they don't want to be involved in the actual labor departments that keep this nation going. They
right.
do not want to be involved in the backbone departments that keep this nation functioning daily. Again, our water systems, our power plants, our air service providers,
Don't forget
our
about the garbage collection.
our sanitation.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oil drilling, dangerous. Steel mills,
Dangerous.
dangerous.
Yep. Plumbers, etc.
Electricity. Right,
All of
exactly.
the dangerous jobs are filled in mass by men. If all men were to be eradicated, as the feminist agenda promotes, and not blanketing all feminist waves, first wave feminism was respectable. Women wanted to enter the workforce and be seen as more than just reproductive tools and or sexual objects. But after that wave, the level of hostility has grown along with a quantity of women not participating in backbone avenues that keep the nation functioning on the daily. If all of us right now had to call a plumber, 8 to 9 times out of 10, it'll be a male coming to your door. If all of us here right now had to call a towing company due to a vehicle malfunction,
Right. Exactly.
8 to 9 times out of 10, it would be men driving those. Um, what's the word I'm looking for here? Tow trucks, in order to remove the vehicle to keep traffic functioning smoothly. If we needed more bridges built, 8 to 9 times out of 10, it would be men participating in the employments of building these archi- architectural figures in order to provide more transportational function for us to travel from one state's county or area to another. When we see quantity going one direction rather than the other, and that quantity is looking for comfort rather than productivity in the actual labor force that keeps the function of this nation going, then we will instantly, by default, lose. Women don't want to be pilots for the most part. Women don't want to be plumbers for the most part. Women do not want to participate in the military for the most part. And several studies have shown when you have mixed military groups, they tend to lose at a lopsided rate against male dominated military groups.
Hmm.
That's the outcome that we get.
Very interesting. Um, but someone said, oh, I did a show and someone just brought it up that one British woman built her own all-woman production company, and there was so much drama da, 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 that it only lasted 2 years, and then she packed it in. Her company failed.
We have seen that increase in women only industries fail continuously. We have seen many female dating coaches hang it up and call it quits because women are living by ridiculous standards. Along with that, we see women continuously seek out public assistance programs in contrast to the good women who do exist that prefer to go the route of being productive citizens via employment or entrepreneurship. When the majority outweighs the majority's actions will affect both the majority and the minority. The majority of women seek comfort and assistance. They don't seek self responsibility, self incentive, and self determination to get things done that will in turn contribute to the productivity of this nation. Women elect officials who restrict our right to free speech, which limits social media platforms and networks that can be used to generate income, which in turn can stimulate the economy. Women votes for candidates who are anti Second Amendment. If we embrace the Second Amendment, we open up a job market of way more firearm shops and or gun ranges and or firearm training obstacle courses. When women vote for candidates who want to infringe on our constitutional rights, it affects the labor market as well. The less jobs, the less opportunity. The less opportunity, the more crime. The more crime, the less growth and productive outcome of a nation.
Interesting. Something you alluded to is that there are women. There are women who know how to do the right thing.
Yup, there are, and I've
They get
interviewed
they get
many.
shut down by and I find that amazing. They get condemned, bullied,
Yup,
and it's amazing that you talk about freedom, constitutional rights. Here's a woman saying, "Hey, I think men should be able to do this. I think men should be in the workforce, and other women just come down on them like a ton of bricks and shut them down. And
Yep.
that's killing their constitutional right for freedom of speech. It's unbelievable.
When we look at the statistics, the majority of women who are pro constitutional had one of two things, if not both. One, a father in the household, and two, a polite, welcoming, respectful, nourishing mother. When women are raised by hostile mothers who continue to push the indoctrinative message of anger and blame towards men, we will see a decline in productivity within any nation, along with a massive rise in financial crisis. Women lose fast twitch muscles 30 to 40 years earlier than men do. Women cannot be in heavy duty labor force as long as men can. The less amount of men you have in hard labor forces, the less productivity that will keep the economy and this nation functioning properly. Women cannot be mechanics at the longevity of men. Women cannot be firefighters at the longevity of men. Women cannot be pilots, electricians, plumbers, military service members, and or dangerous, hostile environments of employment to the level of longevity that men can. So when you reduce those numbers and you contribute to vote for candidates who want to eliminate the enthusiastic and empowering message of supporting men, along with shipping our jobs to other nations where feminism is also spreading, all we're gonna get in the final days is massive misery.
There are two great comments here. Uh, one in one is in direct response to what you're saying about women voting. He said, "Kill the 19th Amendment."
What I say with that is, if God forbid things really got out of hand and somehow we were able to pull off a miracle victory and reclaim full blown power, that would be the final resort. In the meanwhile, I seek out the good few women to provide them with support to start enlightening their fellow peers in the female gender and help them find the path to enlightenment and redemption. Um, I'm very big on individual freedoms and a heavy enthusiast on women being able to have equal opportunity towards productivity and exercise of constitutional action within this nation and any other nation on the planet. With that said, women have to keep up their side of the bargain that they truly want to be seen as productive contributors to society outside of their constant involvement in sex appeal employment opportunities.
So here's a someone that's kind of responding to what you just said. He said governments worldwide decided to empower women at at the expense. So he said governments worldwide decided to empower women at the expense of men. Men stood back and did nothing. We men are at fault as well.
I could agree with that, but it's a double edged sword. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. Had we restricted women from being able to have equal opportunity and a voice in the pardon me, in the voting spectrum, we would have been considered tyrants. We provided them the opportunity to engage in voting and simply asked them to live up to their rhetoric of wanting to be productive members of society, supporters of the United States Constitution, and full blown equal liberty to every single individual, regardless of gender. Their actions in majority have proven otherwise, without any fault going to the minority of good women, with the exception of their lack of unity in order to enlighten the hostile women. Had we not given women the respect and right to vote, we would have been considered tyrants. But being that they now have the right to vote, unfortunately, we see in heavy quantity which direction most, not all, but most choose to vote in. The immediate action we should be taking right now is educating women on political candidates, but also putting the ball in their court when it comes to engaging men on a romantic level. They have Me Too in their back pocket, complete legislation rigged against men. This is no longer a court we can play on. We must put the ball back in their court when it comes to dating, but also make the effort to calmly approach and educate women on constitutional candidates, along with providing the elaboration of the dangers of women voting for candidates who advocate for heavy public assistance and a lack of productivity in the labor force.
Absolutely. And there's so I think a big part of the problem is regardless of the relationship. So if it's business, if it's friends, if it's intimate, if it's family,
They should be living up to the words they speak.
well, see, here's where the problem is, and you're seeing this with little boys. You could say the feminization of boys. So because boys don't sit quietly like little girls, boys are treated like they are defective girls, and they're told, well, you have ADD and you have problems. So being a boy is a problem. It's
Yeah.
treated almost like it's a disease.
Yep.
And I'm saying that because there's a comment in here that really accentuates that. And the guy said, I've been accused of shouting while calmly establishing and enforcing boundaries to the point where I was almost whispering. It doesn't matter. The abuse narrative will be used. And so that goes back to the other guy who said men stood by and allowed that to happen. So if a woman doesn't like the way I speak because I speak strongly and firmly, and you don't, because our biochemistry is not equal, my voice is different. So if you're asking me to speak like a woman, then maybe you should be with a woman, not with a man, because along with the firmness of my voice comes many other things that you look for. So I'm competitive in the marketplace and looking for a job or as an entrepreneur, right? Men are more successful as entrepreneurs than women are. When you put them side by side, we put in longer hours, as you were saying, we work harder, and our bodies can endure the physical labor, the long hours, even if you're a doctor. So there's some things that come with that territory, and uh, part of my manhood allows me to put boundaries in place. If you're asking me to be less than a man, perhaps you don't want to be with a man. And
Hmm.
if men don't take that kind of stand in their personal life, whether it's intimate with their sisters, with their friends, if they don't do that, then we'll keep going in the direction that we are going, and it's not benefiting even the women. And if you look at studies, women were happier in the 70s than they are right now. So
Yup.
so technically what's happening isn't working and no one is winning.
I've been working on the books for a very long time. I'm 32 years old now, going on 33 later this year. In every single job that I have worked, and this is not to be discriminative towards women, but women have called out at a higher ratio than men. Women have requested to leave early during shifts at a higher
Exactly.
ratio than men.
Exactly.
Women have taken longer vacation times at a longer percentage than men. If the employees are not in the establishments to get the work done, the business is going to crumble. Women want to enjoy the fruits of labor without, for the most part, not all, but the vast majority, without putting in the work of labor in order to cultivate and harvest the fruits to enjoy.
So here's where I do perspectives. There are some jobs where women are more efficient than men. They
Definitely.
just are, right? And those women should be acknowledged for that.
Always.
There are some women who are outliers, right? So uh, I was talking to a few women last night, and we were talking about leadership, difference between managers and leaders. And I was asking the women what it, they were talking about how they were disadvantaged as a woman. And I said, and if you haven't read this book by Malcolm Gladwell called David and Goliath, it's a great book. Have you read it?
I have not. You
Okay. Well,
just educated me on that right now.
okay. His book, and he's the author of Blank, Tipping Point, Outliers. He's written, he backs up what he says with research. And the book David and Goliath is really about how supposed or seemingly disadvantages end up turning to your advantage. So I asked these women, if you think you're disadvantaged, how does that, how can you use being a woman? So if you think being a woman it gives you a disadvantage, talk to me how being a woman gives you an advantage. And one of the things they said is that it's easier for them to build trust in the workplace with other men. Men will trust them before they trust a man. You know what? You can kind of see that, right? So we're taught to trust our mother, right? And so when you deal with a woman, even though she's not your mother, but she represents the femininity that your mother represented. So there's a level of trust. And with other men, there's more competitive. So we may trust a woman. So women can be good in sales, right? Some
Yep.
women may be great at trial lawyers and convincing a jury, right? So there are different jobs where even though they may be dominated by males, there are some women who will do them well because being a woman gives her the advantage. If she's willing to compete like men do, then she could. So I'll give women that, but that's not the majority.
It's
That's
not the
outliers.
majority at
It's
all.
it's such a small percentage, and those women should continue to be rewarded for the skill and the talent that they bring to the table. But to offer it as an entitlement just for being female, that hurts society, the big picture.
Yep.
And I think it creates a national security because if you disenfranchise your men, you become a sitting duck for someone to come in and just take over.
Statistically speaking, women do better in the sales avenue market in contrast to men. The
Right.
issue that comes with that is the lack of attendance with women. Women
Right.
trust women, and men trust women, especially when it comes to purchase. Being that, again, we were taught by our mothers and society that
Right.
women are the more innocent gender.
Correct.
But what happens is you have a higher quantity of women who call outs and again request to be allowed to leave early from their jobs in comparison to men. If
And
you have
wait,
10 sales reps,
the number 60%, women use 60% more sick leave than men, especially when they have children.
yep,
It's a huge
exactly.
number.
Ted, if you own a business that is based on sales, let's say any type of product, cell phones, t-shirts, clothing, etc. Let's say you have 10 employees, 5 men and 5 women. Out of those 5 women, 2.5 to 3 choose to call out. Now, the quantity of employees that you have currently active during that workday will have a harder time attending to the quantity of customers
Correct.
who enter your establishment for purchase.
Right.
If those same examples were compared in combat, where any platoon will go out to conduct a mission, and the platoon just happens to be mixed gendered, and a portion of that mixed gendered platoon has women saying they're not going to go out to conduct a mission that day, with smaller quantity, the platoon is at a higher risk of danger. Less bodies means that the opposing side will have the advantage when it comes to quantity. More eyes to watch out for any type of danger that could present itself.
Right.
The same thing when we go on the original example of sales. The less reps in the store who can attend to the customers, the more likelihood of lost sales and theft as well, because you have less eyes observing the establishment and you have less workers able to attend the quantity of customers coming in.
Well put. Well put. So, the tough conversation for men to have is that, so one thing men can do is let it crash and burn, right? And let me tell you why I'm challenged with that. And I do understand it. But imagine if you and I and my brother build a house, right? And you're helping me, right? So this is my house. I build this house, and you help me build it. It's a great house.
Yep. Yep.
A year later, after I'm living comfortably in my home, I meet a woman and she moves in with me, and she starts to act erratic and entitled, and so I can ask her to leave, or I can let her burn the house down. I have a problem letting her burn my house down after
Yep.
you and my brother helped me build this sucker. We built this, and I'm going to let her just come in and burn it down and destroy it, and then I have to go build another house. That doesn't make sense to me. So I hear a lot of guys saying we're helpless, there's nothing we can do. But there is because men have built, maintained, and built structures to protect a military, they build a society, they maintain it, and then they protect it with the military, all done by men.
Yep.
You now have to also accept the fact that by doing those three things, you hold everyone in society accountable.
Yep. Accountability.
Within the structure that you have created. And once you stop doing that, then we're going to be exactly where we are. So we could let it crash and burn and then rebuild, which I'm just having a difficult time with that one. We'd probably be invaded by someone before that happens, or in the middle of that, or you can start to hold everyone accountable. The guys who are teaching their daughters to be feminist and who don't realize they are teaching their daughters to hate men by saying, hey, men only want one thing. Once you convince your daughter of that, in her mind, She thinks men are bad and you only want one thing. And the worst part is she doesn't even know how to cater to a guy in a relationship because she believes the only thing she has to bring is sex, and the man should be happy. And that's a relationship that's going to crash and burn.
Ironically enough, after first wave feminism projected the message of requesting to not be viewed as sexual objects, ever since that action was taken and put on the books, the majority of women have sought out income streams based on their sexuality and promotion of their looks rather than promotion of their productivity and contributions to the labor force.
So someone made an interesting comment. Is that the problem, Ted? Is and this is in response to me saying I'm not going to let her burn my house down. The problem, Ted, is that your brother is helping the woman burn the house down in this society.
Oh my God.
Wait, he said, and I'm saying they have already stolen our house. That's exactly my point.
What can be done is there are a lot of men who choose not to vote. I am a registered libertarian, but also a libertarian in mind, body, and spirit, simply because the basis of libertarianism is live and let be, respect one another, accept and honor each individual's life, liberty, constitutional rights, and pursuit of happiness, as long as they are not conducting any immediate acts of hostility towards you. With that being said, if we can further educate our fellow men to get more involved voting, especially on the libertarian platform, in which we have a lot of women who advocate for either the reform and or abolishment of the child support system, the prison industrial complex audits and or abolishment, along with heavy criminal justice and family court reform, and the embracement of the Second Amendment and the end of prohibition, we can begin to see more victories. Republicans want to legislate women and keep them on a controlled level, which will in turn create a lot of rebellious women. The Democrat platform wants to overly entitle women and incentivize them to vote Democrat in return for public assistance programs, which grant them all incentives to not be productive contributors to society. If we can come together, awaken our fellow men to start voting libertarian, along with being able to pick up the minority of good women, educate them on the libertarian platform if they are not libertarian already, then we can see a good outcome occur. But the steps have to start being taken from right now. Currently, here in New York City, we have a female candidate running on the libertarian ticket, Miss Stacey Pressman, who is not anti-man one bit, who advocates for the Second Amendment in arguably the most infringed city in the United States, along with criminal justice reform and family court reform. We need to put the microphone in the hands of these type of women more often. I would also like to grant a shout out to Cheryl Todd, Rhonda Marie, Cynthia Alvarado, Martha Bueno, Kim Ruff, Joe Jorgensen, and even what's her name again? It's a Democrat female from Hawaii. I'm thinking. What's her name? Tulsi Gabbard. If we can put the microphone, oh, and also Anna Paulina, if we can put the microphone in the hands of these women who are pro constitutional, who are about living up to the standards of accountability and being productive in society without any bias or hatred towards men, we will see more victories occur and legislation being changed like that. We could help stabilize society, fix the economy, and even the households. But we have to take the action. And I'm a heavy enthusiast without any bias of my current political registration and affiliation, but basic concept of individuals' respect of their constitutional rights and the encouragement of a free market with little to zero registrational requirements and or restrictions that cost money for entrepreneurs to be able to function freely without starting a business while being in debt, we will see more victories. I heavily advocate for everybody to start researching and voting libertarian. The Republicans have already turned off the majority of women who do vote Democrat. The Democrats incentivize women to hurt the economy while receiving a lot of freebies. The only logical, rational solution is the Libertarian Party, which advocates for female empowerment, but at the standard of accountability and with shielding any hostility towards men.
Okay. All right. Um, so, like I said, I do get the whole let it crash and burn, but here's the problem, and I'm seeing guys saying that they know how to rebuild. See, physically rebuilding is the easiest part.
Mm-hmm.
Ensuring that history doesn't repeat itself is the problem.
Yep.
And see, that's if just because you let it crash and burn and you think the women are the women, here's what they'll do. They'll let you rebuild it. They'll sit back, they'll go have a seat, they'll bring you a glass of lemonade, and after you rebuild it and all the danger is gone, all the like think about all the dangerous jobs that existed in the 1800s.
Oh yeah.
Even the early, the early part of the
Miners, fishers, railroad workers.
no, but just think of why unions had to come into existence because of the danger of so many jobs, right? So what men did was correct all of that. And after after the workplace became safe, that's when women entered.
Yup.
So the what I'm saying is women will sit back and let you get rid of all the danger, make it safe and easy, sort of a snap and go. You snap it together and you go. And they'll just do the same thing again. And history will repeat itself because men have not caught on to the fact that until they start to say no to certain things and correct women's behavior instead of allowing women to correct your behavior, say no, ask the woman to leave. If you allow a woman to feminize you because she says, "Oh, I feel unsafe," then say you should leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unsafe around me, you should go. You should not
Yep.
be around me. You should never be around me because I'm always going to be a man. I'm always going to speak this way. And there are certain boundaries that I'm putting in place. And either you respect that or you go somewhere else where the person won't put those kinds of demands on you. And stop lying to women and saying how smart and beautiful they are when they are not, because it's going to create a false sense of security. There are women who are exceptionally intelligent. When you look at IQs across the spectrum, they're evenly distributed between men and women. Except the fact of the matter, men are biologically created to take more risks. And that gives us an advantage. So we have more practical ways of using our intelligence, and women have made it advancements and improvements to what we've created. The fact is, they only do it on a platform that was invented and created by a man. You can tell me all the algorithms they sent for a man to go to the moon. The platform of a man going to the moon was created by a man, not women, and not women dollars. Social media platforms, all of that created on the internet, all of this done by men. So
Yep.
letting it crash and burn, the reason it's not a solution is because you will not have corrected the source of the problem. You will just rebuild with the same mindsets, and men are still going to teach their daughters that men are horrible, and you're going to allow the same propaganda and the same negative marketing towards men. It's going to happen all over again. So at some point, men are going to have to take a stand and look at where the source is. And you know, as you were saying, there are women who really do stand by men. Those women need to be supported more,
Yes, they do.
here. And
That is,
the women who are working against us, you know what? You can work against us, then you should go over there and do your own thing, since you don't need us. And let them go drill their own oil and go into the iron ore mines and the coal mines, and just do it yourself, and don't come back.
and we know, not to be disrespectful, but facts are facts. The majority of them, they listen to that, and this is going to be their response. Women do not want to be put in extreme situations that require heavy labor action and or crucial decision making that could cause an outcome each in any direction, via good or bad. um I'm not too big on TV shows, but being that we have the manosphere now, there has been a heavy awareness being brought about the TV show Survivor. What they did was, on one particular season, is separate a group of men and a group of women on remote Caribbean islands. And what we saw was the men had the most stability. They were able to create a long term functioning domicile in which they could rest their heads while continuing to create different necessities in order to eat, bathe, and or rest themselves without any danger presenting itself. The women, on the other hand, were in constant danger and needed to be bailed out several times.
Wow, really?
And you guys could YouTube it. Again, this is not any hatred towards women or any type of misogyny towards women, but facts are facts. And facts do not care about our feelings. Our emotions are generated through individual response to situations that occur or scenarios that we create in our head that cause emotional reactions. Facts are validated outcomes that are stats, documented, and left written in stone.
Someone said something important, and it's see, you don't just change your mindset because things crashed and burned. You know, you have a crisis, people generally go back. A crisis doesn't change your mindset. It may change your reaction, uh, but the person you were is still the person you were. So someone said males raised by women will never go against their mothers en masse. And so that becomes a problem too. You know, if you're uncomfortable putting your mother in check, then how will you put any other woman in check? It's the same, it's sort of this inverse relationship. If you're taught to trust your mother, then when you encounter a woman in sales, you may trust that woman. But if you're taught to never put your mother in check, then you will not put another woman in check. It's the same relationship. So it's like you'll give your mother a certain leeway. Like you'll let it and when it comes to your father, you may be more confrontational with your father than you are with your mother. So it's easy to be confrontational with other men, uh, but harder to be confrontational or establishing boundaries, because how many boys or men would ever think about establishing boundaries with their mother? You know, that's pretty extreme. And guys who do that are seen as you hate women if you put boundaries in place for your mother or your grandmother. And so that's a mindset that men are raised. You know, girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're innocent. But hell, in the beginning of this show, you talked about paternity fraud. You know, it's easily about 1/3 of husbands raising children are raising children that are not theirs because their wife was impregnated
Yup.
by someone else. So
Yup.
there's a lot of that happening, and it's not just the U.S. and it's not in the past 50 or 100 years. This has been happening for a long time.
A
So
very long time.
so men cannot be afraid to have standards. See, we're told when a woman says no, you comply. But when a man says no, who gives a damn? So guys need to get accustomed to saying no, this is out of line, it's inappropriate, unacceptable, and I will not tolerate it. And that's a different mindset. And you need to even be able to do that with your mother and
Mhm.
your grandmother and your especially your sisters. So uh,
The vast majority of people on public assistance programs are women. The majority of those women are currently our mothers, if they are still alive, or somebody else's mom, or somebody's grandmother,
right,
whether it be public housing, Section 8, welfare and WIC, or the majority of all the above put together. They continue to leverage and seek out freebies instead of taking action in order to generate income while contributing to the economy.
interesting.
Mhm.
So someone said even a cat raised by a bird won't go against it, and so you know if you think of that in terms of a dog, you know, people expect the dog to be loyal. I raised this dog from a puppy. I feed you. I walk you. You know, I give you a home. And the dog that goes against its owner is considered dangerous, and you shouldn't have that kind of dog.
Mhm.
There's and that's you know some people who own exotic animals like lions and tigers and black panthers. It's considered dangerous, right? But the deal is if if you are not treating that dog well, you have a higher chance of him turning on you.
Yep.
If you're treating the dog well, less likely that's going to happen. And if you can look at even people who have black panthers, who are probably the most dangerous of those big cats, they're harder to contain. You have to have a really good relationship with that animal for it to not turn on you. So if women in any way feel that men are turning on them, it's not that men just woke up and said, I don't like women and I hate them, because it's amazing the amount of hoops that men are accustomed to jumping through for women. And that's a mindset that also, see, if you don't deal with how men see themselves, so we've been trained to think that we are dirty and sleazy and we lie and we cheat and we steal and we only want one thing. And that's just the way men are. And women are pure and natural. And like my mom is pure and she's a great old gal and she married my father as a virgin. And all of my siblings, we all have the same, you know, father. And my dad is out there, you know, he's a player and he's So it's just the way we're taught to look at ourselves as men that probably hurts us more than anything. And that's a mindset that men are not actively working to undo that mindset and then to deal with the reality of what we're seeing with women. And if you think just letting it crash and burn, women are smart enough to let it crash and burn. And then they'll say, hey, I was never for that feminism. I'll help you. Here's a glass of lemonade. They'll smile in your face and they'll have sex with you just so you rebuild stuff. And this is the thing that men are uh not fully comprehending, man.
Oh man.
And so where someone said we need to return to masculinity, enforcement of rules and orders, and that if men return to that and stand by that, and you let it crash and burn, then there are two messages: that men don't play nonsense, and will let you die. But that's cutting off your nose to spite your face. So if you just establish masculinity and rules and boundaries, eventually women will get in line, or just tell them to go build their own companies. I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, Cash. In Israel, women are a little more out of control than they are here. They are reporting domestic violence when it never happened, or it's the woman doing it. Some guy was an Uber driver. He had his camera on, and a woman starts smacking herself and ripping her clothes, and she calls the police, and this man is assaulting me. The police come, and he shows them the video, and they still arrest him. They still arrest him.
Yeah.
So here's what men have done. They stopped hiring women in companies. They stopped. So now women, because women have such a bad reputation, no one is hiring them. So they have a choice: either get in line or go create women only companies and find you and make your own way.
As we've seen with female only gyms opened up by women, and they're pretty much immediate failure. It's funny you brought up Israel, because not to be religious or anything, but ancient scripture talks about the story of Jezebel.
Mm.
Jezebel um, pretty much caused massive destruction in ancient Israel due to her selfish ways and her emotional instability. It was either her way or the highway. And she seduced her way via, I forgot the king's name, but she seduced him in order to acquire power.
Mm.
And once she acquired power by seducing the king and making that king, King Ahab, making King Ahab declare her as his queen, she and then gained access to the authority, which led to massive destruction in Israel, ancient Israel.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, women of modern day today, as you stated, and the statistics prove, are born and raised with a heavy message of entitlement without a educational establishment of accountability and consequence for one's actions. Legislatively, women are given a lot more leeway than men. Men are arrested at 3 to 4 times higher the rate as
Exactly.
women for the same crime conducted.
Right.
Men are sentenced 2 to 3 times longer to incarceration than women. Um, Again, my personal opinion is we have to be able to find the good women, put the microphone in their hands so that their fellow women can listen to their voices and not declare the misogynist or mansplaining card. Along with that, we have to vote with our feet. stop cold approaching women, stop financially helping women. And if you are a business owner, be wary of the females you hire. Conduct a massive but transparent vetting system. Like that, women cannot declare discrimination, but rather accept the fact that by merit, they were not the best candidate for the position. Once women are brought back to a level of accountability, which is heavily bypassed right now, we can see a restoration and proper function and a restoration of productivity within the United States and the globe. But when you entitle women, it's just like playing video games and your opponents having an access to cheat codes.
Mm.
They will heavily leverage those cheat codes in order to win.
So, are those your final words, or would you like to give some final conclusions?
Um, what
Those
I
were
would
good,
say,
those were good words that you just said. That was very good. Thank you.
because I did share this particular link along with my Instagram where I have a lot more friendlier females, but also on my Facebook where there's a mix of more hostile females.
Okay.
So I have to fully make sure that they comprehend that I'm speaking in monotone with zero emotional action and or dialogue. Strictly sticking to the facts, along with providing them clear, transparent explanation of what is occurring now and what is to come if we don't take action in the direction of restoring the constitutional republic, embracing full blown open market capitalism, and restoring accountability to each and every citizen, regardless of gender. I heavily advise men to watch your material, your content, along with mine, and also many other men in the manosphere. And the number one video I advocate for to awaken our currently blue capsule beta simp male counterparts is the 10-year MGTOW prediction by Texting Prince. In that video, which is only 10 minutes, he explains how if we choose to walk away, no longer go clubbing, or cold approach women, we will see an outcome of women starting to take action of approaching us, trying to find out what's going on. That's what we need to happen now. Because if we do not put the ball in their court, we will continue to enable them and continue to give them a bypass on what is called accountability. So we have to walk away, enlighten our blue pilled beta mon counterparts, awaken them. And I believe the best video to break the ice would be the 10-year MGTOW prediction by Texting Prince. And then from there, start sharing with them your videos, my videos, Coach Greg Adams' videos, Red Pill Rican's videos, Casual Bachelor's videos, Better Bachelor's videos, and Young Men's Daily Red Pill videos, and Strong Successful Males videos. But that particular video is an amazing icebreaker. The 10-year MGTOW prediction by Texting Prince.
How can people find you?
People can find me at The Fix for New York on Instagram. Hit me up there. That is the best way to reach out to me. And also the Fix for New York YouTube channel. But it is easier to get immediate interactive engagement with me on Instagram. And then from there, I can reroute you to my YouTube channel, The Fix for New York, when we are conducting podcast episodes on my channel.
Very cool. So there is, from a political perspective, I think men don't fully comprehend how it works. Men need to fully engage lobbyists so that
Yep.
they can start talking about policies and
Mhm.
use the lobbyists to create new laws, new policies. The
Yep.
companies that want to work against who listen, I have no problem supporting women. However, if you support women in order to sacrifice men, men should stop buying from those companies. Just
Yep.
outright, just cut them off. Yeah,
Boycott.
just cut them off. You're done.
It worked with the
Because
civil rights movement
right,
back in the 60s when people of color, such as yourself and myself,
right,
would be denied the access of sitting at the front of the bus.
right,
Boycotts are very effective. We should
right.
boycott dating, boycott marriage, and boycott any type of advocacy for candidates and or lobbyists who are going to empower women at the expense of destroying men.
Correct, correct. And there are lobbyists who understand how to get things done. So men need to understand that the government or the political structure is really just a mediator. They are not the ones with power. It is the money that is the puppet up there, you know what, getting them to talk and say the things you want. So men need to understand the power structure in this country,
Yep.
that this is not a democracy, it's a republic.
Yep.
And the republic serves three entities: large landowners, wealthy families, and large corporations. And if you are in one of those categories and you understand how to engage the lobbyists and how to hire them to write the policies you want or to negate policies that are already in place, men actually can do that. And you can just, let's take you, for example. We could put money behind you to run for Senate.
Yep.
And as a senator, you're there to ensure that our agenda as men is protected and executed, well executed. And so there's maybe you, and whether you're in New York or New Jersey, and there's someone else in California and someone else in Illinois and Massachusetts. That is how men have to start putting money behind one another and supporting them. So there are lobbyists, and there are women who will be by our side and to ensure to make things happen. They will help finance it.
Yep.
Except it's going to come down to men. And if you just stand by and say this is horrible and we're going to let it crash and burn, then you will be on a soup line.
What I will say to our fellow men viewing this evening, I do have a Patreon set up, patreon.com/ the fix for New York. I am out in the field engaging with people, especially in warm weather time periods. I have my Patreon set up at $3 a month. All contributions will be highly appreciated and used to put out better contents and all types of productivity. Along with that, it will further assist in promoting the awareness of candidates who are pro Constitution and about reforming these laws that do cause damaging effects upon ourselves, good men who want to be productive members of society. So that is a great way to help. $3 a month, patreon.com/ the fix for New York.
Perfect. If you're not following Cash, find him on the Fix for New York on Instagram or here on YouTube, and follow him and check out his content. He has great content. And I've, if you don't know it, I was on his show before, sitting right underneath that flag where he is, with Cash and another gentleman and the Red Pill Weekend. Exactly. So, guys, if you haven't smashed the like button on this one,
hit that like button. The censorship is real. Let's feed the algorithm. If we all help each other, we grab a shovel, we're able to shovel the vehicle out of snow a lot quicker.
Exactly. And look, share this video. Share it. Share this video, like it, comment. The comments will also support the YouTube algorithms.
And we have two huge elections coming up, very crucial. New York City is the powerhouse of legislation. on the East Coast. So, New York City Mayor, check out Libertarian candidate, female, but very in favor of men and the Constitution, Stacey Pressman. Come next year, 2022, we have Libertarian candidate, male, Larry Sharp, who also is pro men's rights, pro fathers' rights, pro the reform of the judicial system, of family court system, of fathers' rights, and restoring the constitutional republic and ending prohibition. If we can make it happen here in New York, the spillover effect to the rest of the United States will be almost immediate. So check out the Libertarian candidates, Stacey Pressman and Larry Sharp. If they are elected into office, they will take immediate action to fixing this circus we're currently living in now.
And I know Larry personally. I met him years ago. Very sharp
Yeah,
guy,
yep.
good guy. Yep. So I listen to what Cash is saying. So any last word you want to say before we sign out here?
I want to give a shout out to all my fellow libertarians, all my fellow red pilled MGTOW manosphere members. Keep your head up, remain productive, never lose focus on your goals. Always look for ways to generate more income. I do work for corporate United States, along with being an entrepreneur with my podcast and also a delivery guy. Do not be ashamed of any of your side hustles. Generate the income in order to better invest in yourself for the future. Shout out all the good, rational minded with women, whether you're libertarian, Republican, Democrat, independent, or not involved in the political world yet, but do have good intentions. Also, make sure to stay consistent with the content of Ted Santos, myself, and all fellow Red Pill content creators. We do not hate women. We just want to grant women full blown equality and hold them to a standard of accountability, which they requested back during women's suffrage era, in which they wanted to be seen as more than just sex objects. With that being said, God bless all. Hit me up at The Fix for New York on Instagram and check out all of my YouTube content as well. Thank you so much for your support, people. And Ted, thank you for having me on, brother.
Hey, love having you, man. Always good chatting, chopping it up with you. Glad to have you on board. We finally made this happen. And thank you, everyone. If you haven't smashed the like button, smash it. Love to hear any more comments you have. If you're not following me, hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and you'll see more of my content. And like Cash, I also have a Patreon. I've been putting up a lot of videos that you won't find anywhere else in the world.
Support the
Really,
Patreons, fellas, because we're the ones out in the field putting ourselves at risk in order to help everyone else like that. You guys don't have to show your face, don't have to be deemed women haters, lunatics, potential threats. So support us like that. We could contribute to changing legislation, which will in then be able to help support you.
Good enough. Well said. Good evening, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you soon. Take care and goodbye.